Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, hear a behind-the-scenes look on originator data and the philosophy behind how we choose which hybrids to offer. We give insight on diversifying your maturity to minimize weather risk.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Ben, Dylan, and Lynn. And Ben, I know you've been crunching a few numbers here. What's going on?
Yeah, so hot off the press this morning, we got one of our originator datas back on the corn side of things. So this will be helping us make decisions on the products that'll be launched in 27 for the corn side and kind of give us a backwards look at what the year brought. And it's kind of confirmed some of the trends that we've seen. And I guess what I can say to our customers that are looking at buying the portfolio of Merschman or buying any corn seed going into next year, that it's going to be an interesting one to try to pick the right varieties based off the year that we had this past year. Some of the trends and some of the things that I've been seeing. So I'm going to talk about a big dog. One that was very popular in the industry this year is Pioneer 13777 PowerCore Enlist. That's one of the major checks that a lot of companies are going to be checking too, because it's a powerhouse. It's a very, very strong product. Last year we were able to contend and outrun it in some of our data, and this year we are very, very close. We're within a bushel, maybe a bushel or two, of keeping up with that product with our 2512 C-30. But what I have kind of come to know and talked to enough other agronomists, enough other salesmen out in the field that, that product had a little bit better southern rust rating than what our 2512 C30 did last year. So I think southern rust is going to come into play when we are checking how our field averages looked this past year compared to maybe 2 years or 3 years worth of data. And if you're not in a typical southern rust territory, which we aren't here in southeast Iowa, even going down a third of the way into Missouri and crossing that line all the way over into Illinois. Southern rust isn't a year in and year out thing, and that's probably not something that we should be making hybrid selections on based off of the intermittent amount of times that we see that disease, because that disease doesn't overwinter.
Yeah, we were out in Kearney, Nebraska, and we didn't see any southern rust at all out there, did we?
No.
As clean as can be, right?
Yep, absolutely, perfectly clean field.
So, like you say, it is a problem, and it can be a problem. We've seen it a few years ago too. I mean, so it's in the last 5 years. I think we've seen it twice, maybe.
Yep.
And so, it's something to pay attention to. Obviously, fungicides do help. If you have a fungicide management program, you can take a variety that maybe is not as stellar and make things work. So. That's good advice, Ben. In other words, every year there's some yield limiting factor, and if you start chasing that yield limiting factor, it may or may not be the right thing to do.
Right. Another example of this would be when I go and look at a product, and I'm just calling it out because it is what it is, the Pioneer or the DeKalb 11135. It's been a staple for many areas, whether it be the South, Central Illinois, here in Iowa. That's probably one of DeKalb's strongest mid-season products. And when tar spot is the most limiting factor, like it has been for the past 2 or 3 years, where the environment over a large enough geography, our products like 2411 C30 out in the field and in our testing, the 2413, the 2512, a lot of our products were able to hang and run with that product, if not exceed that product from a yield perspective. But that product as an individual has unbelievable tolerance to southern rust. Now it still gets southern rust, but for some reason it can build yield through the southern rust, and that's why that product works really well as an early option in southern Illinois and in some of these other areas. That product slid from middle of the pack pretty far up to the top of the pack when we were looking at the 108 to 111 day relative maturities that we're looking at. So I haven't spent a ton of time looking at this. I basically got our stuff identified. We'll share this once we can get it cleaned up a little bit, get rid of some of the experimentals and some of the non-checks and things of that nature. We'll definitely share this for this coming year, but it definitely gives us a testament to some of the trends. It's definitely backed up some of the assumptions that I've had this past year.
What about the 106 day? That's one of my favorite hybrids for more of the northern areas. I know we spend a lot of time on the 111 and the 112, 113 day.
It would have had 4 out of probably 50 we'd have ranked 4 out of 50 as a conventional, 5 out of 50 as a PowerCore. So, I mean, they actually tied 248 versus 248. So that's across the replicated large geography there. The 108-day actually came in a little bit lower than it, but it's still in the top third, very, very strong. And when I look at that one, I can't remember exactly. I think it was both of those products had very strong performance, central and west, a little bit less on the eastern side of the basically we break the data gets broken down. West of I-35 is considered their western region. I-35 to the eastern border of Illinois is the central region, and then from there to the east is considered east. Did I do that right?
Yep. Sounds right.
That's right.
So, and I don't have all those highlighted. I didn't quite get there yet before our time of filming, but both of those products performed very, very strong. I mean, when you're only 4 and you got a Pioneer 104-day and a Pioneer 108-day, and you're within 2 bushel of what those products are, we're performing very, very strong.
Yeah, and keep in mind, these are existing products in the market, and we're going up against all the new things.
Yeah, and that counts all the new things as well.
So
it's a dominant
product.
product.
Your new things should be beating your existing things. If not, your program's not too strong.
Correct.
So to run with the newest products are right there, and some of the best products in the industry. You should have some confidence to apply it.
Yeah, some of the experimentals that we looked at, like the 111X, performed very strong. The 111 or the 113C were also things that performed very well. But we'll start making some decisions probably the first part of December here and getting our plans in place and ready for the following year. But our products overall performed very well. We just have to look at how Southern Rust is affecting things, and if a product like the 2411, it was a little bit soft on our own acres this year, but that's a product that I know now that we got to keep a darn close eye on the Southern Rust, and that might be my early fungicide, or that might be my late fungicide, or my double fungicide, wherever that's planted. Exactly. Because we have got to make sure that that product fills correctly. There are other products that are really popular in our industry right now that have been dominant the past 10 years, 5 years, whatever that number is, and that product had 2 soft years in a row, and it's because of fill. The guys that double fungicided absolutely loved it. It was their highest yielding product on the market, and that's not our product. That's a different product that's out in the market right now. So you just have to know how to take care of these products, because products just don't slide off. They don't just hit a certain age limit and die. It's Mother Nature and the environment, and knowing how to build the yield with the product.
Plant the package, and don't forget on Southern Rust, we kind of get early indicators. If we look south and we know what the prevailing winds are, we can predict it. We predicted it this year. I mean, if you watched Cup of Joe, we told you Southern Rust. Yep. We talked about it, and it was way in time to put the fungicide on and take care of it. And then of course, you got to have moisture, and we did have that in July. So. Usually when those storms come up, they bring the Southern Rust. So it is something that if you pay attention, you can manage it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to give a 30,000 foot view to our viewers, once again, to kind of highlight what Ben's looking at and the philosophy behind it is, from our perspective, we think that we need to be, number one, defense is tar spot. So moving back when we first got an iteration of the PowerCore, you kind of had a little bit of, do you want to be good at tar spot, or you want to be good at Southern Rust? It didn't seem like there was anything when we first looked at stuff before these numbers that we have now. That was maybe the 111 day would be in that kind of camp. Now we're kind of seeing stuff that kind of blend that. The 112 day would be in that camp. So, but that's the tough part about corn, is that, and soybeans are in the same way. Sometimes you have to make a trade-off, and in our opinion, the trade-off is that we'd rather be stronger on tar spot than Southern Rust, because it's, from our footprint, it's not the most habitual pest that we have to deal with, and it's one that a little easier to manage.
Well, it's here. I mean, it's in the residual of the corn leaves and stover. So we know tar spot, if the conditions are right, it will be here, because it spreads in the air and it's going to move. And so, but Southern Rust has to come from way down south. Yep. It comes from what, Texas? From up?
Even further than that, I believe it comes out of the Mexico area. So it doesn't, even the majority of the states have cool enough conditions that I'm almost positive it's either Mississippi, Texas, or even down into Mexico where we get the major inoculum buildup from it. I also wanted to note, this is just kind of a cool thing, and this is something that we've noticed in the trends over the past 3 years when we've been paying attention to the 2512. It is fifth when I look at it in the full season. So when you're comparing, 112 is the earliest thing in the lineup of experimentals and industry checks. It's fifth out of that 50 number that we were talking about, and it's being put up against 117, 120, 119 day products. So
that's a great point. And when we look at first results that are coming in, and for guys that pay attention to that, that's an interesting column when you look at the first trials that don't automatically jump to the yield side. That is pretty cool. But what I like that they do is they do the estimated rank based on revenue per acre. And the 2512 has been really shining, the 106 day as well, shining in that. If it's not in the top 3 from a yield perspective, it's either number 1 or number 2 based on high yield, low moisture, and we know that our price points are pretty attractive as well.
Yeah, when you look at a yield by moisture mean, you want the highest number in, you want a higher rank, you want a higher number. So when I look at a 117 day, let's go to this, I just saw one here, 119 day, you're looking at a 13.11 yield by moisture, and when you look at the 2512, it's a 14.46, and that's the highest number out of that column. So
yeah, we're going to get one of these falls where corn doesn't dry down, and then you're going to appreciate, because as the general rule in the corn industry, I can tell you a little bit behind the curtain, is that, if you got a really stellar product, you might stretch that maturity and put it into a slightly 1 or 2 day earlier spot, and then say how great the stay green is and everything, and really it's a day or 2 later than what it's advertised, and that's the oldest trick in the book because normally full season hybrids have the best potential to yield because they got more days to fill. But at the end of the day, if you're harvesting a lot of acres and you got one dryer, that may not be the right strategy is to go after the high yielder. You've got to have something that you can get your corn out and do it cost effectively. So you bring up some good points. Just don't look at the shiny, bright star that it's a real full season variety. You got to look at that moisture and how that all works. And I know all the farmers know this, but sometimes you got to be reminded, right?
Correct.
Especially with the way we've had this year where corn's been too dry almost.
I just wanted to put a little plug in at soybeans too, as we're talking about package. We're playing a package this year. It seems like maybe guys were maybe a little disappointed compared to where some of their their early varieties did. As we get to, it seems like you get past the 3.5, 3.6. Guys weren't necessarily, I would say, disappointed. They were just quite not as good as maybe like their Cherokees or their Jeffersons. But it's just the same way as corn. We don't know what the year's going to bring. So if we could really get guys to keep going with that package, starting early and work up. Don't get away from doing that. It could be the exact opposite. I know the past few years have been favoring that early, those early beans, but try and stay consistent on what we're doing year to year because we just don't know what's gonna happen. We were one rain away in August this year from having stellar late beans. We just didn't get it. So you just don't know what's gonna bring, and so if we can try and keep guys from just creeping along up to that maturity. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and this year, to your point, I think what that actually helped some guys, though, in that is that they had that diversification in their soybeans. It might not have yielded as well, but they were able to go out and get corn done before stuff cannibalized itself. So there's a lot of caveats when we play soybeans, and you just have to figure out what works well for your operation. If you're a guy that wants to get all your corn done, obviously getting stuff with a little bit earlier maturity and maybe going a little bit longer on beans. And I think you're 100% right. We are due for a August, September rain, and the 4.0, 4.2s are just going to absolutely throttle everything. But this year wasn't in the cards, no pun intended. But we're getting complaints on 65 bushel 4.0s and 4.2s. It's hard to not have a little bit of like, come on, that's a really good yield for that. But I get it. When you sit in a combine and locally guys seeing 70, 80, 85, 2.9s to 3.5s, you kind of question your choice for the next year. I'll be honest, I'm in the same boat. Right. So, but yeah, plant the package, hedge the risk. It's a good way. to be honest, the Denvers that we had on our personal acres were the only beans that we combined with double-digit moisture. So if those same beans would have been 8%, I'd hate to see what the yield would have been in comparison. So.
Well, and maybe you look at it a little bit different way too. Maybe you were in the camp of you started at your 3.5, 3.6s and you went to your 4.2s. Maybe if you think that you want to diversify that risk rather than putting all of your beans from a 3.5 to a 3.7, because that's where the sweet spot was this year, maybe you spin around and go early.
Correct.
We have some great options from an early, and it doesn't matter where you're at or where you're listening to this at. If the 3.6 is the same thing as what our 4.2 would be from a late perspective, maybe you go on the early side, because I've had a lot of guys had really good luck getting on the early side of things. So maybe you're running a 2.6 to a 3.6 instead of that 3.6 to 4.2.
Well, historically, the trend has been moving earlier on maturity, because if you go way back to the early 60s, there used to be a variety called Clark 63, and that was planted widely across northern Missouri, and it's like a 4.5, 4.6. I mean, it's really late bean. And that's what everybody planted, because rains always came latter part of August, and then in this area in southeast Iowa, I mean 3.9s. Everybody planted 3.9s, and now 3.9s is kind of the late bean in the area. So the trend has been going earlier, and you are right, Ben. If you plant an early bean first, it has the potential to yield with the mid to full season beans, and then plus you get more September days to harvest and longer days to get those beans out, and that can be a plus. So, but again, Lynn said, well, maybe you want to get your corn off first, because you're going after that high yield and you're taking some hybrids that maybe not quite as good a roots or stock, and you want to play that. So, I mean, it's all different ways to meet the challenges.
Exactly. Now, I think not to dog on the 4.0s or the 4.2s around here locally, but we've had discussion ad nauseum and put it on Cup of Joe, though, but those beans had the potential. Mm-hmm. Bean size, and a couple comments about just aborted the third bean in that pod to try to hold on to the rest of them. So you get those filled, I'm gonna say you need to plant a 2.9 to a 4.2 if you're around here. Just hedge everything.
Oh, I think the seed size can make up 10% in yield, is what I've heard. Is that fair to say, Ben? 10%?
It could be even higher than that.
Could
if
be
we were
higher.
looking at, if you do a little bit of math, if you're looking at 3,300 seeds per pound divided by 2,400 seeds per pound, you're talking almost a 25% swing.
Well, and seed size is small this year, so that's how much yield we left on the table, because we did not get that August rain. Whatever you want to put on it, 10 to 25%.
Well, correct, because the bean's going to compensate, so you don't get that entire swing.
Yeah.
So the bean, we have more beans, but a smaller seed size this year. The bean plant will always compensate, so 10% is probably closer.
Hey, look at Alex Harrell. I mean, that's one of his pillars to his high yielding, world record was bean size.
Yeah, bean size. Yeah,
that was a privy point, because I think Belo's talked about it. The yield on soybeans is really in a corn too, it's a math equation. So if we can manipulate one part of it, we have some success. But the part with bean size and whatnot, unless you're under irrigation or highly managed, we don't really get a chance to manipulate. We could say we want to manipulate it, but at the end of the day, Mother Nature rules that roost pretty decent. If the moisture just doesn't show up, it doesn't show up. We can't compensate for that.
So those 65 bushel soybeans should have been in the 70s. So, if we had got a rain.
Yep.
Anything else? Well, I want to get a little serious here instead of telling these jokes all the time. I just want you to know, farmers have stress, seed company presidents have stress too. We got worrying about the yield and all the employees that we have and all the things going on. I've been going to a therapist. I don't know if you know that or not. Don't be laughing here. And my therapist said change would be good for me. Recommended change. So I decided I'm going to start collecting coins. You guys ain't buying that, huh? Okay. Next one. Right before we started filming today, these Alex and Lynn were talking about their exercise, things they do, lift weights, whatnot. So you guys, see if you can answer this one, okay? Do you know what kind of exercise Bigfoot does? You ever think about that? I don't, but you guys might. I don't know. He does. It's called Sasquatch. Squats. Sasquatch. Okay. All right, last one is a little bit about married life, couples and stuff, you know. Do you know why some couples don't go to the gym? Because some relationships don't work out. They're pretty bad, pretty bad. Anyhow, thanks for watching today and our listening. We sincerely appreciate your business. It's time to order your seed. We want to get it there on time. We know which products are best. Get a hold of your Merschman seed rep or dealer and let's get this thing going. And we hope your family's healthy and safe, and we'll see you next week.